you can see my book. You can also go to page 725 on your end. You guys are familiar with events, so it's not something that you're learning new. Event is pretty much your program being able to take an input from the user, and that input could be in the form of a click, enter key. It could be any of these: double click, moving mouse, dragging mouse, whatever. I mean, any of these functionalities could be considered an event. So the whole idea that we will now be looking at is how your program can handle events, means how your program can interact with a user in a graphical user interface programming. So what Java developers did, they built a bunch of interfaces. These interfaces are called listeners, as you can see over here as well. These listeners have some methods. So whenever you incorporate any of these interfaces, you have to write the bodies of these methods. So that's Java's way of forcing you to write those methods. So when your object interacts with the user, the Java is looking for the implementation of those methods. So that's why Java wants you to implement those interfaces. So when the time comes, it knows you have the implementation of those methods. So that's what basically the Java does. So preparing your class to accept event messages, what you need to do, first of all, is you need to implement interfaces based on the nature of action. So first of all, you have to make your object action to listen to an action. So for example, if it's a button, which is waiting to receive a click, or if it's a text box waiting so that you can press enter in it, you can write the name of the object dot, and then you can call a method add. If it is listening to an action, you can call action listener. If it is like a checkbox or a radio button, you can do item listener. I mean, like if you want to capture mouse, you can use mouse listener. If you want to capture keyboard, you can use key listener. So there are all sorts of listeners out there that you can use. So here for the button, we will incorporate add action listener. So what is it? It's pretty much telling the Java that this button is capable of listening to the user's action. Okay, so when it listens to the user action, what will it gonna do then? It will capture the event in the object this. That's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna make a call to add action listener. Okay, what add action listener will do is add action listener will look for a method in your code called action performed, and will hand over the object that performed the action over to that method called action listener. So let's have a look at it. Action perform method. Okay. Java cannot force you to write action perform method until and unless you implement an interface called action listener. So that's basically the action perform method gets called by the button that's capable of receiving actions, and the object will then be passed over to action event type. To sum it all up, this is the example that shows you how you can sum it all up. So your class will extend from JFrame and will implement a listener called action listener. Since you are implementing an action listener, this action listener has an empty body of a method action perform, so you will be forced to write action performed. And action perform will handle whatever you want it to do. Now, in the body of your constructor, where you have declared all your objects, the object that you want to listen to the user's action, you will say the object dot add action listener. And this object will then be able to listen to the user's event. So when the user clicks the button add action listener, the add action listener will forward the response to action performed. The action performed will capture the person who triggered in the E. E knows the source. Since we only have one guy, so we don't need to tap into the E to see who performed the action. So what we can do is, okay, and anytime the button gets clicked, I want answer. What is answer? My text field. I want answer to give me the text, whatever text it holds. And I will then store that text in the local object name. I will concatenate it with the word hello, and I will throw this back into greeting. What is greeting? A label. So I will throw this back in that label. So it's pretty much like if I were to talk to you in C# lingo, you will be like text, text1.text, when you write on the right-hand side of equals, is what we are doing over here. But in C#, those are properties. Here we call getters. Similarly, if I want to change the value of any item, I call the setter. So get text retrieves the text, and set text sets the text. So you pretty much play around with these two properties, that if you want to give the text to any of the GUI object, you call the setter on it. If you want to retrieve, you call the getter on it. Any question about this example so far?
No.
No, everybody's good? Okay. Let's do something similar that you have seen this example. We will do something similar. So let's fire up Eclipse. I'm calling my class GUI event example 1. We will not rush to hit the finish because there are a couple things that I want to do right in the middle. So if you guys can give me a green check to me so that I'm, I know that you guys are here this far. So as soon as Cole and Jordan catch up, we will then move on to the next step. Waiting for Cole. Okay. What I would like you to do is delete what's in the superclass and type JFrame. Then in interfaces, hit add. And where it says choose interfaces, type action. And then one of the items will read action listener. Okay. Click on action listener and click add. Action listener will show in the list over here on the left-hand side. Click OK. And make sure the inherited abstract methods checkbox is checked, because that will automatically write the code for the method, which is abstract for you, which is coming from the action listener interface. Hit finish. I'm purposely not explaining anything because this is something we did last week. So does anybody has any question about anything that I'm doing right now?
No.
Okay. Did we talk about grid layout last week?
Don't believe so.
Okay. We talk about flow layout though? Flow layout.
Trying to think. I know we talked about like some flow stuff last night in my other class. I'm trying to make sure we did in this one.
Yeah, I think we talked about layout managers, which allow you to put more than one objects on the frame. Because you guys
Yes.
do
Yep,
it,
flow
yeah,
layout.
okay, yeah, flow layout. So flow layout allows you to place more than one objects in the frame. And so you need layouts all the time to be able to put more than one object on the frame. So grid layout is like an Excel spreadsheet. So it makes everything comes up, very in a harmony. So right now what I'm saying is I want a layout with 3 rows and 2 items per row. So that's basically what I'm saying. So the first item that comes in goes in the first slot in the first row. Second item that comes in automatically goes in the second slot in the first row. The third item goes in the first slot in the second row, and like that, it'll keep filling. So total, I have 6 objects. So I will place them nicely in this 3x2 grid. Okay. So now the sequence in which I add is the sequence in which they will show. And if you guys remember from last week, you have to make the frame visible, you have to make it closable, and you have to set its size Otherwise, it just doesn't shows up on the screen.
And sorry, I accidentally put this code in the action performed, but I see you didn't. What method is this in this code here?
This is constructor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So when we are building the frame building process takes place within the constructor. Right now, I have not written any event handling code. Now let me write one line of code in the main to fire up this frame. And all I need is an unnamed object of GUI event example1 type. That's it. Since I will not be using that for more than one statements, I could just very well declare an unnamed object and I'm good to go. So now when I run this example, okay, you see it here, right here, okay. Now let me increase the width 300 and reduce the height to maybe 150. Yeah, a little better. Oh, I forgot to put the text on my button calculate. Here we go. So right now, this is just the look and feel.
What did you forget?
I forgot to give my J button the text on line 22.
Oh, I see.
Josh and Robert Reeder left. Any questions, Robert, or are you still coding? Okay, so guys, what should I type to give my frame some text on its title bar?
Set title.
Okay, that's one way to do it. Set title. Yep. Can, in the meanwhile, somebody suggest an alternate?
Can't you just write super with parentheses and then put in
Yep.
what you want to name it?
Yep, absolutely. We could also do that. Yep. Super means calling the parent class. You could either make the constructor of the parent write the title for you, or you can call the set title method and write it yourself. You have both options are available. Okay, so now when you run this program, you will see your JFrame with the title. Where's your JFrame opening, guys?
The top left.
And where did mine open?
I'm assuming in the center. I didn't watch it, but
Right in the middle. And how did I make that possible? Because of line 36. Line 36 will make it appear right in the center of the screen. Okay. Now, right above all the setters and right after all the ads, txt result dot request focus. Oh, no. No, not txt result. It should be txt num. Request focus not working. Hold on a second. Maybe I should do it right before adding it. No, it's not even doing that. num. Interesting. I'll look into that just a minute. Okay, let me add the other possibilities first. Let me call the reset and make it add action listener so that it can listen to the user's actions. And in the action performed, I will make this to clear out all the text from both text boxes. So right now, only the reset button is active.
So the request focus is supposed to have it where the cursor shows up at the text box, right?
Right, that's what it's supposed to do.
Because it's actually working for me. I really don't know what's going on with yours.
Oh, okay. If it is, yeah, you guys should also try it then maybe.
Not working for me. It sets it to reset.
Txt num dot request focus. Okay. Try it if it works for you guys. For some reason, it's not blinking in the text box. I want it to blink.
It did not work for me either. It's still on reset for me.
Okay.
Same here.
Show us your ways, Greg.
Okay. Okay, so now let's put some data in both fields and hit the reset for testing purpose. And it will clear both text boxes. So it is working fine. Now, what I will do is I will make my answer text box non-editable. It's usable, but user cannot edit it. So now when I run it, it's grayed out. I will be able to put some data in it, but the user can't use it. So for now, I can only use this guy. Let me try doing this. Let me grab this focus thingy and put it right here in my action performed. Oh,
But all of a sudden it's working for me.
yeah, maybe it's this Eclipse acting up.
Yeah, I haven't.
Mine's
moved
working
mine
too.
yet, and yeah, mine's
Okay.
working too.
So now when you put something in here and hit the reset, it puts the insertion point back in here because that's what it does. Line 47, anytime you clear, it puts the focus back after clearing. Okay. Next, what we will do is we will add the action listener to the second button as well, which is calculate dot add action listener this. Unlike C#, Java uses the same method for all the action handlers. In C#, you double click on every button and each button write its own click event. Here, things don't work like that. So lines 46 through 48 need to be altered. How we will alter it? It will alter it like this. If we're going to put this in an if condition, all three of these lines. What we'll put is if E, which is from line 45, dot get source is reset. Okay. If the user had hit the reset button, only then this code will run. Otherwise, if the source is calculate button, then we will do something else. I want you guys to fix line number 52. I'm purposely leaving it as an error. Islamic trivia time. I will ask. Okay, so who got it fixed? Okay, Oscar, what should I do?
You have to do double dot parse double around the text num that got the dot get text.
So we got to parse it. Okay. Double dot parse double. Okay. What did I do wrong? I made another mistake.
The D in double should be capitalized because
Yeah.
it's a class.
Yep, good job. Okay. See, I'm checking to see if you guys pay attention to little details. Okay. So I grabbed the text from the text box because it's a string. We need to convert that into a double. Only then we can multiply it by a value. And then we are storing it back in a double variable. Okay. I want the calculated result to go in the text box called result text. What should I type? What should I write here?
Would it be txt result that set text, but convert that to string.
Okay, set text. Okay, so we'll be doing double dot to string, and we'll have the double value here, okay, just like that. Let's test the code. So enter a value and calculate and reset. Okay. Can you guys combine lines 52 and 53 into one line, into one instruction? So other than Oscar and Jessica, who else got this done? Line 52 and 53 combined into one instruction, other than Oscar and Jessica. Okay, Cole. So Cole, what did you do? What code did you write? Yep, very good. So that's what probably you would have to do. You already have this piece, right? All you need to do is, instead of saying double DBL equals to, you replace that with this guy, this him, okay? So you bring that from the second line right at the front of the first instruction. So what you're doing, it looks very complicated, but this is what you're doing. You're grabbing the text from the text box, converting it to the double, multiplying it by 2, converting it into a string, and putting it in the text box. Okay. So it's always starts from inner and comes outer. Okay, everybody caught up now? Does anybody has any question about any of the stuff that we did this far? Excuse me. So we still have Aiden, Francisco, Jack Lear, and Robert Reed. Okay, working on it. Okay. Francisco doing good? Or you need any help? I'm just coding. Oh, you're good. Okay. Now let's switch back to our book. And let's go to that you can also use multiple event sources like we did in our examples. Your book also talks about the same stuff. And this is the approach that we took. The author actually grabbed the e-source first and then compared them. That can also be done. I just did e-source right away in the if condition. Enabled, we also worked on that. Let's move to understanding the swing listeners. So far, we only work with action listener. Action listener works with buttons, text boxes, but you may have other listeners like adjustment listeners. If you have a scroll bar, you can have an adjustment listener to read to adjustment on the scroll bar, or change listener for sliders, focus listener, item listener, key listener, mouse motion listener, window listener. All of these are different kinds of listeners that you can use. Okay. So this is another table where it talks about which objects work with which listener. So text boxes, combo boxes, check boxes, buttons, radio buttons, they all work with action listener. And combo box and radio buttons and checkbox and J button also work with item listener. And all swing components work with focus listener, key listener, mouse listener, and mouse motion listener. And all window and frame components also work with window listener. And only J slider and J checkbox work with change listener. So these are the methods that you would have to call to add the listening to the objects if you are using objects of any of these types. As a result of adding a listener, you would have to incorporate an interface. So if you want action listener interface, you would have to code this method. Adjustment listener, this method. Focus listener, this method. These methods. Item listener, this method. Okay. Now here is a simple example where we have used checkboxes. So here author declared 1, 2, 3, 4 checkboxes. Each checkbox has a text and all of them are unchecked. That's why the second parameter is false. Inside the constructor, we are making a call to the parent's constructor. We are setting the operations. Now notice we are using add item listener, not action listener. Add item listener is what we're using here to add the listening capability to each one of the checkboxes. Then we're adding the label followed by all the checkboxes. And here's my item state change. Author did not write any code there yet. It's like, okay, this is where the code will go. And then he's like, okay, you create the object of frame type, you set his properties, because he didn't set the properties here like I did. That's why he had to do it here in the main. So this will make it checkable. Okay, now he said, okay, you can write a code where you can say, okay, if so-and-so checkbox is checked, you can grab that by the get state change method. That means if what is getting clicked on is a checkbox, then let's see if it is checked or unchecked. So we first grab its state by calling get state change. It's an integer. And if that integer equals selected a constant, then do this, otherwise do something else. So the author has given you some code snippet. That's all she did. But we will do a much better example. So what I would like you guys to do here is, I want you to create a new class. In fact, you know what? Let me save this one as. That'll save us some time. We'll call it example 2. Hover over. Okay, I'm changing my label names to option 1 or option L1 and option L2. Likewise, guys, make changes in the code in the constructor, option L1 and L2. And this is the text that we will put in each one of these labels. Then instead of J text field, I'll declare J checkbox. We're going to call this one option 1 and option 2. And no buttons. So get rid of all this code down below here for now. So these are the two checkboxes I have. Travel allowance is the text next to the first checkbox, and housing allowance is the text next to the second checkbox. Okay, so make sure that your constructor is error-free. Get rid of this override method completely. Just delete everything in this override method. So that's what you guys have left over here, okay? And instead of saying implement action listener, say implement item listener. You would have to organize your imports again because you need to import the item listener. Why do we have an error on line number 8?
Because we have to implement the method
Yep.
from the item listener.
Very good. So you hover over and you add unimplemented method. Great. So when you scroll down, you will see item state changed method, just like that. If e dot get source equals to option 1, then we will do this code. And if it is equals to option 2, we will do this code. Okay. Well, not doing an else because at the same time, both checkboxes could be checked. That's why we will be writing independent ifs, because we want to make sure whichever checkbox is checked, it should just work with all of those which are checked. So if the source of the action is option 1, then line number 40 will run. And at the same time, once it's done with line 41, it will check line 42 as well. String status. If e dot get state change equals to 1, that means Okay, it was fired, but is it checked? If it is checked, the value of status you know what? I should change my grid layout look and feel. Instead of 3 comma do 2, let me make it 4 comma 1. 4 comma 1 will make them all 1 item per row. Who can tell me why is it not working right now when everything is there?
You need to add the item listener to the option 1 and 2.
Yep, exactly. So I need to go back up here and I need to say option 1 dot set oh, not set add, my bad, add item listener.
Mine is still running the old one. It won't run this one for some reason.
I know the reason. Check your main. Are you still calling example 1?
Nope.
You're calling example 2 in the main?
Mhm.
Still running the old one.
Yes. Let me restart my clips. I sent it before.
Okay.
Yep. Now it works.
Okay, cool. So the rest of you, Aiden, Cole, Greg, Jack, Josh, and Sparrow. Please give me a green check when you guys are done. Or if you need help, let me know as well. Yep, Aiden, I will show you again what it is supposed to do. If I click on travel allowance, it gives 125 in the travel allowance. If I uncheck it, it resets it to 0. Housing allowance resets it to 0. Did you make sure that you add lines 25 and 26 where you give those two items event listeners? Oh, okay. How about Greg and Jack?
I just need to see the housing allowance.
This area? Okay. 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 Now let me go back to your book. And let's go to the button group. Button group is typically used with radio buttons because you can only use one of the many radio buttons. That's why you have to create a button group first, which is created like this: button group, a group equals new button group. Then you can add to the button group your checkboxes, radio buttons, whatever you want to add them to the button group. You can do that. So that's a button group. And then we have J combo box, which is a drop-down box. You can populate a drop-down box. It's called J combo box here. It is a child of J component. You simply create a J combo box like this, as you can see over here in the very first line in the box. And then to add items to it, you have to call add item, add item, add item. Each add item will add items to the combo box. Also, if you have an array created ahead of time, you can run it in a loop. So that probably will populate add item that way. Just like that. Okay, so you can, or you can assign an entire array to a combo box. It will automatically populate it like that. Okay, now go through table 14-6 look at each method and its explanation. Whenever you are done reading through the table, also look at a couple of code snippets that the author is introducing at the bottom. So read some explanation as to how we select an item, selected item, because then we will do an example with combo box.
I think you're muted. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Sorry.
Okay.
I just noticed you were speaking.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I'm creating two parallel arrays. The first one will have the prices. The second one will have all the cities. So my cities, my first city is nothing because the first price is 0. And all other prices are matching the other cities, which have names. Okay, so make sure that your constructor doesn't has any problems. I will change my JFrame size. We need to fix the item state changed, but I'll do that once everybody is done to line number 33. So as you are done with up to line 33, give me a green check. So I know everybody's done this far, then I'll scroll down, or I should say line 37. If everybody's done through line 37. For those of you who are done with the top portion, just simply delete everything inside item state changed. Because it'll be a brand new item state changed. So the whole idea is that I will pick an item from a drop-down box, and then I will grab the index number of that item. Once I have the index number of that item, then I will go to the prices array and I will grab the price on that index location. Because I have two parallel arrays, I have city arrays and the price array. So which method of the combo box should I use to grab the index number of the selected item?
Get selected index.
Yep. So integer index equals to cities dot get selected index. Then my result text box will say the ticket price is, and then I go to the prices array and I try to grab the value on that index. So Toronto, LA, Chicago, Austin, nothing. And check to make sure that it works fine. Josh is the only one still working on it. Everybody else is done. Oh, Josh is also done. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, now let's save this one as number 4. I'll have to do a lot of clearing over here. That's what's remaining. And then I'll change this to action listener. Hover over, add unimplemented methods. So I'll leave this for you guys so that you can get this far. And then we will start to make changes. Let me clear your previous feedback. So as you guys are done building a skeleton, In this example, I want to use radio buttons. Okay. So when we use radio buttons, as I showed you in the book, we got to use a button group object, because otherwise I won't be able to pick one radio button. It will force me to pick both of them. So I also need to instantiate the button group, so that to the button group, I can add the online and in-person radio buttons. Let me test to make sure. There you go. Okay, so that's basically I have for now. 2 radio buttons. I can only select one of them. And this is made possible because I added them to the same group. Otherwise, I'll be able to select both of them. Now response dot set action listener. Oh, sorry, add action listener. Oh, sorry, not response button. Button dot add action listener. Now when the button is clicked, if online is selected, Again, please give me a feedback as you get done. Or if you have any questions. Any questions, anybody so far? Then go to the don't do it section in chapter 14. Go over the don't do it's and then read the chapter summary on page 750. I think we lost somebody. Josh, maybe? Let me check my email. Nature of the language, Aiden. In Java, they believe in putting things in one place, as opposed to in the .NET architecture, they believe in creating little capsules of every object. So here we have one method tackling all the problems. In C#, we have several methods, each dedicated to its object. Oh, okay. Did
Are
you?
we just reading over the chapter summary?
Yes, chapter summary and don't do it. Couple items before that one.
Okay.
Yeah, those pit bulls can be dangerous.
Yeah, my mom was taking out our puppy. She came in and said there was pit bull outside. So
Uh,
he seemed like a nice one. He didn't come up to us, but he was over there just playing by himself.
well, but with them, you never know.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Powerful dogs.
yeah, oh, they are, Yeah. As a kid, I thought bulldog was the most powerful one, but no.
Oof.
For its size, it has a good grasp. Yeah, please give me a feedback as you guys get done with the chapter summary. Okay, so Jack, let me know when you're done reading the summary. And again, guys, we have not gone over all the available graphical user objects in Java. We just went over a handful of them this far. We only went over checkbox, labels, radio buttons, combo boxes, text fields, and buttons. There are so many others, like there are tons of them. For example, there's one for password. There is one for tabs, like menus. And within menu, you have menu bar, menu items. Then within menu items, you have different kinds of menu items. You have text editor panes. It's just like, like there's so many of them. Like scroll bar is a separate object. So what Java developers did, instead of giving each object his own scroll bar, they created scroll bar as a separate pane. By pane, I mean a frameless window. So if an object is scrollable, it will be added to that pane, and that's how it will get its scroll. So just add a little bit more flexibility, and also instead of adding the component to each object, they just generalized it that way. Okay. Hmm. I don't know what to say. But it's just like the Java architecture. That's how it is. That instead of having way too many names, they always look to consolidate it. Anyway, so I'm giving you guys an activity number 1. It's a group activity. So you will have you'll either be placed in a group of 2 or a group of 3. You will go over the review questions at the end of the chapter, all 20 of them, and then we will discuss it when you guys come back. We will combine this activity with the break. So let's set aside 40 minutes in which you can decide with your group if you want to take the break first or you want to do the activity first, but you have the 40 minutes. So I will see you guys at 7:55. Okay?
Just activity 1 and the review questions.
No. Only the review questions. That is your
Oh.
activity 1. I'll give you another activity towards the end of the class, a different one. Okay. So let's start creating some more classes. So this time we're going to start from scratch because we've been saving as so many times. When you save as so many times, sometimes you lose track of some of the items or components which are important for creating the GUI applications. So this would be our 5th one. So we're going to call this one GUI example, GUI event example 5. Again, the superclass is JFrame. And we would like to add, in fact, you know what? Let me not add for now. Okay, just to public static void main and hit finish. Before we went on break, I told you guys that there are many more objects that are part of the Java. So among the list of those objects, let's learn about how you can build menus. And then also we're going to learn about how you can build the look and feel of the rest of the form. So I may try to introduce some more objects along the way. So in order for you to build your menus in Java, so let me tell you what classes you will need to build menus. You will need a menu bar. You will need a menu, and you will need menu item. These are the 3 classes. Menu bar is the top bar, which is invisible to the naked eye, which holds several menus. Like you can see in Eclipse, we have a menu bar in which we have menus, file, edit, source. And when we click on the menu, all these items are called menu items. So those are the 3 classes that Java has built for each one of those items. So we need to create a J menu bar. We need to have menu. And we need to have menu item. So we will create a couple of buttons. We will create a text field. And let me introduce a new object, JPassword field, which is used for displaying non-echoable character, just like you have your password field in HTML forms. You guys might have heard about something called pane, P-A-N-E, which is short for panel. In graphical user interface programming, panel is something that works like a window, but you cannot physically see it. So why we use panels in this environment is that at any given time, your frame can only have one layout, which could be border, which could be flow, which could be grid, which could be any of the other layouts available. However, if I want some of my items to be in the north, like at the top, some items to be in a grid, some items to be in a flow, I can't really do that. So the only way to do this would be that I will create a layout for my frame. In that layout, I can put different panels. And each panel will have its own layout. As a result, when you look at the overall frame, you will see that one area has one layout, one area has another layout, one area has a different layout. Basically, those are different panels because at any given time, frame itself cannot maintain several layouts. But this is how we can nest layouts, that in the outer level, we have one layout, which only holds the panels, and then the bottom layers will have the panel, and each panel will have its own layout. So we will create 3 panels here. J panel, top, middle, and bottom. Okay. So those will be our 3 panels. Now, we'll create the constructor in which we'll instantiate everything, and we'll go from there. So let's first create our menu bar. Oh, I misspelled open on line 15. Open.
Is that supposed to be reset in J button?
You are right. Thank you. That's strange. Why am I not seeing my menu bar? How about you guys? Can you see your menu bars?
No.
Okay, so I have my menu bar. I have my menu object. I have my menu items. I'm adding my menu items to my menu. Then I'm adding my menus to my menu bar. And I'm adding my menu bar to my frame.
Is it because we're not implementing anything?
No, that is only for action listener. This is supposed
Okay.
to show without it.
Gotcha.
Even I'm checking Oracle's website. Okay. Let me test this on a much simpler scale. Um,
Is it because there's no name for the menu?
no, we did. It's MB.
Oh, like title? Like
Oh, absolutely. Here you go. You caught it, man. You got it. It should be. I'm left it as an empty items. Thank you. Okay. It saved us a lot of work. There you go. Silly mistake. Now wondering, what did I do wrong? Okay, yeah. Okay. Now let me scroll back up so that you guys can see line number 30 and 34. And on 30, you can see the file, and 34, you can see the edit, and then the rest of the code is down below. Okay. Everybody got this?
Yep.
So now let's scroll up and let's add another menu call, about menu, and we'll add version update company info. About menu, and then we're adding 3 menu items. So I'm building the about menu on line number 38. And we will add this about menu inside the file menu. So this will automatically create a submenu. Oh, I forgot to add about menu dot add version. Okay, did you guys receive an image in the chat? Can you download that to your local computers? And then bring it in Eclipse. And I dropped it not inside the source folder, I dropped it on the project. So it should be at the bottom. And then on line number 31, I'm creating an instance of image icon type because the constructor of menu item can take two parameters, the text and the image icon. And now the image icon will show next to the item. Okay, got it, everybody?
So I don't know why, but my project is, or my program is instantly terminating.
Whenever you're trying to run it,
Yeah,
your program, I mean, like your Eclipse is closing or only your example is terminating?
the example, but it's not like it's failing to run. It's giving me the console terminated.
Do you have this bottom code that I have?
Yeah,
And you're calling the object inside the main?
I hope, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now right where I'm declaring my file menu dot set mnemonic. When you now run it, after you set the mnemonic, you will notice the letter F has a little line underneath it. Now it is Alt controllable. So if you do Alt F, the menu will drop and escape will close it. So we have created a Alt key for it. Okay. Now between adding the update and the company info about menu dot add separator. Add separator will simply add a line between version update and company info. Okay. Now let's go to the top and we will write implements action listener. And now we will add unimplemented methods. Once we do that, we will add some action event to maybe one of the menu items just so that you guys can see how it works. So let's add close dot add action listener this. So I'm adding the close menu item. I'm giving it an action listener. So it could listen to an event. Okay, so I added line number 17, hover over the class to add the unimplemented methods. Then line number 37, I associated the action listener with the close. Now let's scroll down to the action performed. I'll be like, if e dot get source equals to close, then system.exit. So if I hit close application, see the application terminates. So the menu items work exactly like any other items. Nothing different. Okay. Now let's start building our panels. So I have a top panel and I would like to set its layout. So we are instantiating a label. We are setting its fonts. We're adding the label to the panel called top. And we will be adding the top panel to the north of the border layout on the frame. So line 72. I think I should go a little bit wider than 400. Maybe let's make it 650 by 250. There we go. Okay. So the top panel displays that label. Then we'll copy this whole block of top, and we will now work with our second panel, which is called the bottom. Oops. So this will be your end result, where the header will be at the top, which is the top panel, and the bottom panel is down south. Jack, did you add lines 78 and 79? Got it now, everybody? Okay. Now, let's do this. Let's see if we can display a Unicode in Java. And you should be able to see a copyright symbol with that Unicode. Okay, so we now need one more panel to build, which will be our middle panel. So we have the top panel and the bottom panel. We just need to work on the middle panel. And that is the panel with the most amount of items. And that will be the panel that will be right in the middle of the frame. Okay, everybody got this one? So the border layout allows you to put items in different places, north, south, center, east, west. So we only used north, south, and center. Those are the only 3 locations we used. So basically our main form has a border layout, and the border layout has a total of 5 regions. And out of those 5 regions, 3 regions have 3 separate panels. 2 panels are flow layout, which are the north and the south, and the middle panel, the center panel, is the one that has a grid layout. So anytime you need something that is not in harmony, you need multiple panels, and each panel will have its own layout. See, at least you guys can tell Alan and Wendy this week that, Saad didn't type too fast the last day of class. We're all able to catch up just fine.
Now that we know the secrets.
Right, exactly. Jacob agrees with me. I'm like, "Phew, that was a piece of cake. And I was almost ahead of you. Right, Jacob? Jordan is seconding that. Aiden, come on. You don't have to be that humble. Okay. What I would like you guys to do next is to right click on the project to create a new file. Let's call this one data.txt. I'm giving you some text in the chat. Copy paste that text here and save the file. That will save us some time. What I want to do next in my next example is I want to read the data from a text file into a graphical user interface in Java. That's what I want to do. So a lot of the examples that we have been doing after break are not in the book. So we've been doing these examples from outside of the book. Just wanted to expose you to some more stuff than that what book has to offer. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that can be done in Java. And of course, we will continue to work with Java and advanced Java with Java effects and some other technologies. But for now, once you're done creating the text file, let's create a new class, which we will call GUI data read with a public static void main. Don't create it to be the child of JFrame. We'll be using some Java NIO stuff that we learned in the previous class. So that way we'll be able to bring in chapter 13, maybe chapter 12, along with 13 and 14 together in this example, and some outside stuff. So file 1 equals to Pat's. So the whole purpose of line number 8 is I will be using this array to build my column headings. And then I will create another array just to hold my data. This will be a two-dimensional array. Just to hold the data. And I'll need my input stream to start reading my data. Again, I'm not explaining a lot of this code because we already did this last week. So you already know how Java and IO package reads it into the buffered reader. So all we're doing is we are reading the very first record out before we enter the loop. Now, this is something new for you guys. So what I did on line number 25, as I stated in my comment, I'm splitting that string that I'm reading from the file into an array based on a comma. So first name, last name, city, and state will actually be converted from a string into an array of size 4. And that's why I created this object here, okay? I can do like 4x4. On line number 13, I just updated to 4x4. Okay. Now, assign data set to the first dimension of object array one row at a time. So data I equals to data set. So the entire data set gets assigned to the first row in the first cycle. And since I have I++, in the next cycle, the entire data set that I will extract will go in the second row, and so on and so forth. And then we need to read the next line. Just like that. Okay, so it will keep looping till we are done reading the data. So all of the logic that I did this far is all about reading the data into a two-dimensional array. That's all I did. I didn't do any graphical user interface stuff yet. Right now, everything works, but nothing shows. So the whole idea, the next few minutes we'll spend, is to learn to show the data that's sitting in the memory on the frame. So we will use a Java built-in object called JTable. It works like an Excel spreadsheet. It displays data in a tabular fashion where we are loading data and then we are loading the columns. So columns array will go as column headings and the data will go as the data in those columns. Again, as I told you earlier today, that instead of creating scroll bars with every object, Java developers created a scroll pane as a pane. And you can add any object to a pane if you want that object to have a scroll bar. So the main logic, as you can see in this example, is pretty much about loading the data into the two-dimensional array. Putting the data in a table is just in one line, which is line number 46. It grabs the data and puts it in the table and gives column headings. I see that 4 of you are done. Jessica, Jack, Aiden, 5 now. You guys probably have only 3 records there, right? Showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what I did is I just copy pasted the same 3 records 7 more times or however many more times you want. And after I copy pasted them, I saved it, I closed it. Then I went up there at the top on line 20, I increased the row count. Let me make it, let's say 21, for example, whatever number of rows you have, doesn't matter. That will, you can just set the row count to that number. And then I did one more thing. On line 28, I converted the data into uppercase, line number 28 and 36. That's why when I am loading my data, it's coming in all uppercase. Jack, that would be line number 28 and line number 36. As I'm reading the data from the file, I'm reading it, converting it to the uppercase, and then storing it in the S, and repeating the same stuff on line 36.
Is it right if I see the bottom part of the code?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, Christian is still coding. Okay.
Again, just so that you guys know, final exam is available. It is due by next week, Tuesday, midnight. Any items that you have not turned in, which are past due, I gave you time last week, and I'm giving you one more week to turn in the missed work. I will not gonna accept anything after the Tuesday midnight next week, because I have to turn in the grades. So make sure that you guys complete the assigned work by Tuesday midnight. It really scares me when I log in like 10 p.m. Tuesday night and I see people who have not even started. And that scares me because I'm like, they will rush through this. And there are 50 questions. So don't wait till the last minute. Then I'll take care of it on Tuesday. I'm okay. Don't do that. And we'll not be meeting in class, so you'll have the entire time, class time also, for you to work on it, but just don't rely on that.
Is there a time limit on the test?
No, it's available from today till next week, Tuesday, just like quiz, it's not timed. You can do a few questions in every day if you want to do it that way. Totally up to you, how you want to divide those 50 questions. And remember, that's not the only final you have to take care of, right?
Sadly.
Some of you may be taking summer classes, some of you will be coming back in fall. So for fall classes, remember, for every section, you will have two options, OSync option and in-person option. For example, the next level for this course is IBM Advanced Java Programming, for which you have in-person option, which is Friday morning. I mean, I know how much you guys love to do programming early in the morning, especially Friday 8 in the morning. You love it, so that's fine. That's why nobody signed up for that section yet. And then you have no syncs option, right? So those are the two options for that class. And then you have computer programming RPG, same deal. You have one in-person afternoon section, and you have one evening section, which is OSync. And then computer programming C is an elective. You can take that to count towards your suggested elective. And you guys have to take mobile device programming, right? And that is also available to you in several options. You have Monday afternoon, it's blended, and you have an OSync stacked option Thursday night. So those are the only two options you have for that one. And then you will have to take IBM and .NET Enterprise Programming, which is a step up from microcomputer programming. And that also has an OSync section Monday night and in-person section on Wednesday afternoon. And I think those are the classes that you got to take. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, 4 of those. And then if you do not have a suggested elective already done, then you can also do a suggested elective. You have a choice of C, and you have a choice of Python. I think there's a Python somewhere. I saw that somewhere. And then you also have a choice of game programming, whatever. I mean, like you have quite a few choices for that, whichever direction you want to go. Oh, here it is, programming in Python. Anyway. Any question for me?
Nope.
Cool. Awesome. So all the best, guys, and I will see some of you tomorrow. Some of you next semester. I mean, whatever, yeah. Next class, next course.
The fall.
Thanks. Thanks for a good semester. Have a good summer.
You too. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Yep, see you
Good night.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'm having an issue with mine. I have an error under columns and an